I'm fascinated by the Hewlett-Packard experience in the transformation of information technologies. Although I've been heavily involved in various transformation efforts, I have never seen anything as neatly packaged together as the case presented by Hewlett-Packard, who obviously have a marketing objective to present to the customers a integrated view of how they transform the organization. Let me go now to slide number 6, which is the beginning of my presentation and which outlines the HP transformation program in a nutshell. First, the most important aspect of any transformation is that you have to cut back on the applications. There is an excessive proliferation of applications, and they are cutting them down to 1,500. Also, very important, as part of the need to materially improve the quality of service, means that you have to cut down on the number of servers who have become more powerful, cutting them down to 10,000. I must say that is not an accurate number because it reflects actually a 5-fold increase in performance in deliverable CPU cycles. The significant aspect, of course, has to deal with server utilization, which is a result of virtualization. Hewlett-Packard is totally committed to virtualization. They have developed the tools for achieving the transformation and achieving utilization at the 80% level with very high latency. And I mean latency, which we are talking now at less than 250 microseconds, means that the utilization is very effective. The big bucks came out of the consolidation of world sites from 100 to 29 and still continuing down to maybe 6, although that is not clear as yet. But nevertheless, the big money comes out of the overhead structures associated with world sites. The same applies, of course, to data centers. And that means that you have to start thinking about re-architecture of your systems. In order to achieve all of those consolidation, you have to think in terms of software. Ultimately, it's the software that underlies all of this thing, and that is based on the data warehouse. And it's a data warehouse which is service-oriented architecture accessible. I must point out that both Mark Hurd and Randy Mott have their origin in Walmart, where they have been totally accustomed to data warehousing. And for them to bring data warehousing into the Hewlett-Packard environment is a natural outcome. Now, the dramatic aspect of achieving all of this thing is a reduction of the IT workforce. And you say, how in the world can they go down from 19,000 to 8,000? And the answer is the individual world sites where development was being done was loaded with contractors. What they have done fundamentally, and this is very, very important, is they have by and large gotten rid of contractors, and by going to a service-oriented architecture, created a shared infrastructure. In other words, instead of doing individual applications and for each application doing an infrastructure, they are manufacturing a standard infrastructure, imposing it on the entire environment, and that means a major, major significant reduction in manpower. The payoff is very clearly that the usual 80-20 ratio, which 80% is and more for maintenance, is now reversed. So that is basically the scorecard of the transformation. Let me go to slide number 7. And before I get into the technical details, I just want to point out that Hewlett-Packard now is exceeding in size IBM, and you could see very clearly that starting in about 2005, when Mark Hurd came in, HP stock took off, whereas IBM's has sort of lingered around. And that is a clear indication of productivity and profitability. As a matter of fact, on slide 8, that is even more dramatically shown when you compare the revenues between IBM and Hewlett-Packard. I'm not clear whether the audience appreciates the fact that Hewlett-Packard today is bigger than IBM. I must say that whenever I mention that to my associates, they sort of raise their eyebrows and say, "You must be kidding." And in fact, that is so, and that has far-reaching implications in terms of the financials, because the revenue per employee in terms of performance is vastly greater for Hewlett-Packard than for IBM. Slide number 9 is now the beginning of my discussion as to what really drives the entire transformation. And we must start with application simplification. Again, without application simplification, there is no transformation. Slide number 10 is an illustration of how that is being achieved. As you could see, there are various applications color-coded. I don't want to get into detail, but each of them is shrinking. You're going from 24 training and certification applications down to 10, and many of the small applications, particularly with regard to control, are getting folded in financial applications, which are slimming down. For instance, you're going down from 21 portals down to 4. Portals are very important in the entire scheme of transformation, because it's the portals which then allow the users, the customers, to enter in a variety of applications without having to dwell into separate communication systems or separate infrastructures. So slide number 10 gives you an indication of where they are. They are now leveling off at approximately 50 applications. And again must point out that this is misleading, because the scope of the 50-plus applications in fiscal 08 is vastly greater than the scope of the applications when they started the process in 05. Slide number 11 is purely an illustration of how this is done. They consolidate personal information system into a single database to be accessible to a portal. Now, that is very significant, because you are talking about taking global factories and global marketing organization in different countries, in different languages, to go into a single accessible portal. I must say, I am currently working on a Defense Department personnel information system transformation called DIMHERS, which has been on the drawing board now for over 10 years and has cost well over $1 billion. We're still not done. It takes a very decisive and committed management to consolidate personal information, and this is done through a portal. You basically say